welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us here today for another live episode of Conversations with Michael. So let's take a deep breath here as everyone settles in, allowing all the energies that are here in support of all of us to also settle in with the technologies here that we're working with. Very good. Very good. We come together every month to offer support to any human who's chosen to awaken during this lifetime and to embody in that awakened state what we call the human soul relationship. So today we're simulcasting this show on, well, 4 different Facebook pages, 3 of which we are managing, and the other one is the Masters Hub Facebook page. So welcome all of you. If you missed the live version of today's show, you can always catch the recording on our website, on our YouTube channel, or we'll keep the recording for 30 days as well on all these Facebook pages. Very good. So those of you that are new to this show, feel free to visit our website at www.theteachingsofmichael.com, and there you're going to find a variety of heart-based programs and services, all designed to support this embodied human soul relationship. Let's take another deep breath. Normally I begin the show by sharing 10 or 15 minutes worth of some quick announcements, followed by some nice snippets of video and reflecting on some of the things we've done in the past. But we're going to do something here a little different here today, because today we are honored to have on our show a very special guest, Joachim Wolffram. He is the author of a series of, well, I consider to be profound and uplifting books that introduce any awakened human to the presence of the dragon. He was born in 1965. Freedom has been the guiding theme of his spiritual and post-spiritual life. One that would ask, how can one advance to the very core of freedom and then realize it in daily life? It's a good question. It's a really good question. How can one experience and live in consciousness beyond our human limitations? Well, 2 really good questions. And these questions led him to a rather intense journey through the world of Zen and finally beyond. He's also the founder of a financial software company while simultaneously creating a sense of beauty with the most simple interactions with the consciousness that took him into the realm of generative arts. This resulted in a series of popular apps. Perhaps he can share a little bit more about these as we bring him on. So it's my honor to welcome Joachim to join us here and to share his own adventures with us. And we'll do that right here. Hello, welcome. Let me unmute you here as we always have to do. There we are, we're good.
Hello. Hello,
Hel-
Robert.
Yes, yes. And notice that I graciously unmuted you this time here. So
Graciously.
Yeah.
As opposed to me pretending I'm on mute while I'm pretending to talk.
Yeah. I thought that was a really nice dance, a really good gesture on my part. So let's
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And let's be honest with the listeners. We did a test session a few weeks ago, and we got to know each other a little bit. We spent a lot of time laughing. So I was hoping we could carry that kind of free-flowing energy into today's session, but we'll see. I can feel behind me, of course, the fire of Michael and the dragons behind you. So let's see how far we keep this in that jovial state. Very good. Very good. So I've got an original question for you, which goes back to the question that you asked yourself in relationship to what we're doing here, all of us are doing, is how can one advance to the very core of freedom and then realize it in daily life? So I know my listeners would love to hear more of your background of what inspired you, what awakened inside of you this sense of freedom that perhaps was missing, or perhaps it hadn't integrated itself into your daily life.
Well, I'm assuming that I'm not that different from most others listening in today. Quite early in when I grew up, I noticed, well, there's something not quite right the way things appears to be on the outside. And this carried even through my puberty. So there was not a long time where I was totally buried in the world of separation or in the too much into the illusions. And I was always questioning, what is it precisely that creates this reality? What makes me behave in a certain way? And originally, I started with very easy exercises like autogene training, like giving you affirmations and implants how you want to behave in the world, and all the typical stuff. And I recognized, oh, this actually works as long as you put the energy into all these affirmations. And at that point, I decided, no, that's crap. I didn't really understand at that point why it didn't work. But I noticed,
Mm.
yeah, it works fine. It's even great if you say have a big test at university. You can prepare yourself to be like an automata. What do you do if something goes wrong? And you can train all that. But it doesn't work that well in daily life because it's just a fake. It's another layer on top of conflicting beliefs. And nevertheless, I went deeper as good as I could at that time. And at some point, I had a kind of revelation. I asked myself, what do I really want to be in terms of what affirmations would you like to give yourself? And the profound answer was nothing, no affirmation whatsoever, no specific action or reaction whatsoever. And that gave me quite a shock. I didn't really know how to deal with that. But at that point, I already encountered Zen. I read about it, like many people did, I assume. It's kind of cool, it's romantic, but I didn't get the very essence. But at that point, I knew, well, this is something I should go deeper into because this is precisely what I had experienced in that early stage. So I went into the world of Zen, practiced a lot, and do to this very day because I still think it's the best thing you can do. And apart from that, but I noticed that the practice alone is one thing, but there is another thing which is quite important, which is having a true understanding, or at least a very good, call it a model of the greater reality. Because the deeper you go, the more you let go, the more unfiltered the other realities come to you. And if you're not prepared for that, it's quite difficult to deal with it. So I opened up to other areas, to other teachings, until at some point, well, I met Altar, or Altar came to me, and we journeyed together. So Zen is still at the bottom of my heart, but I do not practice actively for a while with the Sangha. But they're still my good friends, so I still very attracted to them.
Yes, yes. Well, if somebody was interested in doing or approaching Zen Buddhism, what would you recommend to them to prepare them for that kind of experience? Because I haven't had that call that way, but I have friends who are involved that say
Yeah.
it's one of the most intense, requires a lot.
Yeah, in a sense, and in another sense, it requires nothing at all. Zen
Yeah.
is first and foremost the practice. That is the way you find a position for a specific reason, and then you go into pure awareness and just let go whatever arises. That's all. There's no object in that meditation. You do not
Yeah.
try to attain anything. So it's called the practice of enlightenment itself. And all the rest, all that comes from these experiences, this then is called Zen. But at the core of Zen is the practice, it's the experience. So if anybody is intrigued in trying it, well, just go somewhere where you can do it or do it yourself. There is no prerequisite. It is, I would say, it's the basis for everything. There's nothing to learn. It's only to unlearn. But unlearning is a fine art. It's not that easy to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's the challenge right there. Because
Yeah.
what you unlearn, what you disentangle yourself from is a part of you that's been pretending to be you.
Yeah, and while you go deeper and deeper, you notice ever deeper levels of yourself. And typically, you start. I call it in my books, cultivating the awareness, not to get attached to some terminology of some tradition or something, but to keep it neutral. But you start out with a very raw perception that you have concerning your body, concerning your emotions, concerning your thoughts, and you just step back over and over again, because you realize constantly that after 10 seconds you're thrown back into your images, into your daydreams, into your drama, into your aching pain, knees, whatever. The moment you notice that, you just step out. And then do this a million times. That it's extremely important. For when you do that, you know that you are the observer of the things that occur right around you. And in doing so and not getting involved, you have the freedom. It's like you're stepping out of the movie and you can just watch the movie.
Yes.
And by doing so, you decondition yourself. You are not forced over the time, you're not forced anymore to just act because there's a certain impulse, but you realize the impulse and you are free to act or not. And this is the very basis of everything, because if you are not able to, what I call, be the master of your own feelings, of your own thoughts, of your own actions, well, how can you assume you can get close to enlightenment? It's nonsense. It's not possible. And it's deep, because there are so many layers of illusions and patterns and traumas and suppressed angers and fears and all the rest of that. It is not that easy as one would like to have it.
So are we suggesting that the human in and of itself is not capable of becoming enlightened?
Oh, only the human can become enlightened. Only the human. But there's a important distinguishing here. Enlightenment is a given. It's what you do in this, say, quest for enlightenment. What you really do is you illuminate your illusions. You see,
Yeah.
Enlightenment is a natural state, but then you are buried with all kinds of illusions, of separation fragments, and this creates your outer reality. And what you do is you have to recognize what is illusion and what is truth. Truth is pure consciousness, and all the rest is actually illusion. So from what do you perceive your life? From what point of view? Is it from the perspective of pure consciousness, or from the perspective of a separated entity being imprisoned in the body, in the mind, in the lifespan?
Yes.
That's the choice you have to do. And it's only the human that has the chance to finally let go of that innate belief that creates everything that we experience. And that innate belief is the belief in separation. Full stop. And this is difficult. This is no easy thing to do. Absolutely not.
Well, it'd be challenging enough if we just said, I'm going to become enlightened and leave this planet. But we're saying, I want to be enlightened, but I also want to stay here. And that, there is no history to look at that shows others have done this. We're doing something here that is so unique, so profound. And given that on top of enlightenment in and of itself is enough, but we're saying we want to stay here too.
Yeah.
So how, in working with the folks that you're working with and with yourself too, because we all have, degrees of challenges of how that works or doesn't work for us. What are you finding are some of the places that some of the people that you're working with, and maybe yourself too, that are challenging in integrating that experience?
So first, I would say there have been humans that became enlightened and they stayed on planet Earth. But as far as I can see, they had a very special life. Like, they were shielded by their disciples, they lived in seclusion, in monasteries, they were not so much in the public. And these days it is quite difficult. Earth is much more populated, mass consciousness is very heavy. So it is not that easy, and certainly not that much fun to stay around and be, and be extremely sensitive.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that it's not possible to stay enlightened in a normal physical body, but it's painful, it's stressful. And if you have ever encountered the true bliss of pure consciousness, there is not so much attraction to stay around in the physical. Really not.
Yeah.
But having said that, what I feel is new is the approach that Altar talks about and others talk about, with bringing in the light body. The light body being a vessel of consciousness created by your own true self that intermingles with your physical body and which allows you to maintain the appearance of a physical body, even the sensory devices of a physical body, so that you can interact with others, that you can feel and taste and even talk. But you're not so much prone to the effects of harsh 3D reality. And this is, as far as I can see, new. I'm not aware of too many traditions that try that. There are, say, the Tibetans, they talk about the rainbow body. Even the Buddhists, they talk about the bliss body. But I'm not aware of any active of the traditions that try actively to bring that in and make that a reality. And actually, it's open if it works in our lifespan. So it shouldn't be the goal for anybody listening in or reading the Altar books to make that happen in time, in my lifespan, the best tomorrow or even this evening. For it has been eons since this all began. And quite a bit of time that everybody listening in has spent in his physical body. And so I think it's a good approach to take on the perspective of moment by moment. Like enlightenment is only a given single moment. In a given moment, you might be fully enlightened. And this moment might span quite a while, a week, a second, a month, who knows? But if you stay in the physical, it's quite likely that illusions come back and veil you again. So you have to do it over again, which is also difficult. Same with the light body. If you do this in the hope that tomorrow everything is fine, you have superhuman features, all illnesses are gone, then you're doomed. It's just stupid. Yes, there's no point in doing this. If you want something like that, go to the gym and do your muscle trainings. That works, and be done with it. If you really are interested in this kind of work, then you have to think moment by moment, without agenda, without looking for any results. You will have the results in the moment. You will feel something is shifting and changing, but it is not you who is actively tinkering around with your molecules and your light body and doing whatever. This takes place on a very different level, and the only thing you should do is be prepared, allow that to happen, and do not interfere. Do not interfere, and not interfering meaning become the master of who you are, what is in your domain as a human, the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings. This is in the domain of the human. This can be mastered by the human. And if you do that, you reach enlightenment. If you progress, well, you might even have a light body or help in creating it.
Yeah, yes. Well, let's do that right here. Let's spend 5 seconds just allowing the light body to come in and just feel it. So listeners, you got 5 seconds. Here we are. Yeah.
Oops.
Oh, hey.
See, it works.
It really did work. Beautiful.
You
Beautiful.
get blue tees when you try it. No, I found this feature on Zoom with the background, and I tried this one. I thought, oh, it fits good around the head and all the rest.
No, that's beautiful. I loved it. Yeah, bring it back. Yeah, that's cool.
Sorry to interrupt. We should give another 5 seconds without getting stupid.
Well, the whole thing about enlightenment in terms of it not being done before is it's not been done before as a group. It's the size of the group that's saying right now that here as a group, we are just choosing, no matter what they call themselves and whatever. There's now, according to Michael, there's almost 1 million individuals who are ripe for this kind of realization, this kind of experience, for that to become tangible, not just a dream, a hope, but actually tangible. And that to him, he's never witnessed that before. I mean, this is brand new to him, and he hasn't seen it. I'm assuming a lot of other beings haven't seen it either. And so this is, I mean, I have to bow before all of us because, once again, enlightenment and leaving, or enlightenment and staying here as an individual, that in and of itself is just an extreme challenge to the human part. But
Yes.
to actually do this as a group, maybe it's easier, maybe it's more challenging. It doesn't really matter. It's just a different experience. And I just have to applaud all of us who always seem to be doing this. If there's some place no other being's ever gone, we're always the one that says, well, why don't we go there? So
Yeah, and the problem of the human oftentimes is that he or she does not see what is really going on.
it's
He
true.
just perceives from his limited perspective, and I'm doing my whatever, as I call it, cultivating my light body thing, or just being aware, and everything seems as always. But if you look from the outside and see what's going on there, oh, that's true beauty going on. It would like light point. If you see planet Earth, then you have the light bulbs going up, but the individual human can hardly see it. And it's often really not really about a single human, but it's about the mass that creates a new pattern, a new passageway for the many to come, hopefully, at some point, to have an easier transition into this letting go of separation.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. So we know we're living in perhaps one of the most intense periods on this planet. I mean, remove the whole awakening experience, the whole enlightenment experience, and this is a very intense time to be a human being. So humanity is faced with, well, the usual serious issues that always seem to pop up every lifetime, but now it's compounded by technology in ways that too is new for most of humanity. I guess my role here then, or my question for you is, what do you see our role in relationship to all of that? Is it to be observers, bystanders, or is there a way too, like we are here today, we're using Zoom, which is wasn't around 10 years ago.
Mm.
It enhances our life in a way, but how do you see technology melding or being and it's a distraction to this whole embodied enlightenment?
Well, I would say our role is to do it ourselves first. That is the first and foremost um, thing everybody should do is on the way to enlightenment. He should do it for himself first. Otherwise, he's just distracting himself and oftentimes just fooling himself.
Yeah.
But then, concerning technology, my take on this is that it's not getting easier. Those that are so-called native digitals, if you have a look at them, their typical attention span is not that long. See, and they're used to it. They're wired to it. It's not getting easier for them. At least I assume that that's the case. Yeah? So, and as they start taking over the world with this very limited attention span, making everything ultra simple in the terms of simplistic, not in a beautiful way simple, but simplistic. Wow, they have a hard time, and then to get out of that mind mode into pure awareness, I think that's a difficult thing. So
Mm.
those who are alive right now, who are say our age, they have a good chance to do it this lifetime, and they shouldn't postpone, because if you think in linear terms, well, if you can progress on the earth, it will not get easier, and times are harsh. So now is the time. If you're really interested in doing it, well, invest it now, full in, and see what happens. And our role concerning technology, well, I wouldn't say technology per se is well, it's not that it hasn't been there before. The entities have been incarnating into machines. It's not that new, for instance.
Right.
But the human has the potential to get beyond all of that, get beyond all the wheel of repetition, of limitations, of always the same plots. If you don't do that, if you get too much distracted, now even by virtual realities, well, you are getting deeper and deeper into the mind. And that's, right, this is what technology enhances. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm playing a computer game. In that computer game, I'm playing just another game. So it's already a scene in a scene in a scene, and you ask yourself, where am I in the end?
Right.
Everything gets confused. And
Right.
the earlier this happens to a human, the more difficult it becomes to really have a feeling of your body. I mean, many people just can't feel their body. They just have no feeling about their body. So what does it mean to them to be present in their body? Even this is no easy task for them, let alone letting go of the body or going beyond it. So our task is, well, to do it ourselves, and if chances arise, inspire others, maybe be a catalyst, might help here or there. But don't look for an outcome, then this will be very frustrating.
Yes, yes. Well,
Don't count your results.
yes, I agree. Going back to the whole thing of removing separation, I mean, there is a blending of even biological and machine type body parts that would
Yeah.
become normal, which to a lot of us, it brings up, images of Terminator type movies of,
Mhm.
that kind of, but titanium replacing bone. I mean, there's some real positives to all that, but how that ends up manifesting under the guise of control or just profit and manipulation, or is it enhancing the human experience, allowing the separation to go away and to see really through the eyes of something different than just the
No,
mind? No, you don't see that.
no, no machine will ever help you to make away with separation. That's
Well,
just
yeah,
possible.
I'm
On
not
the other
talking about
hand,
that.
okay, sorry, then I didn't
Well,
get it.
I'm just talking about integrating a different components into the body itself
Yeah.
that would enhance people's livelihood, enhance their experience of what it means to be in a human form.
Yes,
Yeah,
personally, I see no problem at all with that. Why? Because you incarnate it in flesh and bones anyway. It is not so much different from silicon. It's just
right,
physical matter.
right,
And if you're aware, if you're wise, even, and put, so I don't know, a heart, whatever, close to your heart that it pumps regularly, well, why not? If you cannot see and open up your eyes with some artificial device, why not? Difficulties come if the person is not able to discern, well, what is my perception and what is fed into me from Facebook or Google
right,
or Donald
right,
Trump.
right,
And then, well, we say, well, it's not, we know, but those that come after us, they grow up like this. They don't know the difference. They don't
right,
even know what the telephone with a line is anymore, or a CD. They have never had that. So it's all side of unreal, unphysical. It's coming wireless. And they even see the movie without having a TV. That's
right,
cool. So why bother moving your body if you have the same sensation within? And if you get philosophical, you can even say, yes, where's the point? Why would you move your body if you get the same feelings within? But you stay in separation. And it's ever more complicated to get out of it. The more layers you put upon yourself, like a mummy,
right.
the more difficult it is to break free.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah,
agree. Well, let's move to the dragons, shall we?
sure.
Yeah.
Should I put the background image on?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I get blue teeth and
Well, I know a lot of people are really attracted to the dragons primarily from the books that you have written. And, uh, Michael has stated that if you want to work with these beings, do so with both eyes wide open. They're not here to play with us, but that's his perspective. So I'd be curious what your relationship with the dragons are and maybe how they've changed your life.
Michael is completely right. They are certainly not here to play with anybody. Playing is not their thing. The dragons are mainly observers, and I want to have a cautious note here. Though the books are called the Altar series, it is not really about a dragon. So there shouldn't be any mind game with anybody like, "Ooh, I have my dragon and he's showing me this and that." The dragon is part of the mindset of a human, and the dragon as such is, I call it, a bridge in consciousness. It reminds you of who you truly are beyond separation.
Hmm.
So it has to take on a certain shape, a certain form, in order to just get in contact, to be noticed by a human. And the dragon happens to be, for whatever reason, an archetypical creature that represents a certain stability, a certain, say, force. Um, and therefore, I would say humans perceive such an energy, such an encounters as dragons. So it doesn't need to be a dragon; it can be anything. But the dragon is quite a nice creature. It is, in a way, accepted by many humans. So it is good to use the shape of the dragon as opposed to the shape of a, say, mosquito. A mosquito is not that tempting. Huh? A dragon is nice. Having said that, the dragon is very real, but the dragon, being a facet or an emanation of usually your own true self, can take on any shape. You see, it has no size, it has no specific form, it does not care for form or size. Yet, it is individualized, so it can dive into various realities and get in contact with those who ask for it. Well, they don't do it just like this. You have to ask for it, otherwise they would never disturb you. They are beyond time. They don't care how long it takes for you. But you might have an agreement even with an entity of that type to come in when you're about to master the last steps of your enlightenment, meaning the most difficult portions of letting go. Because this is a very lonely journey. Even if there are maybe 1 million people doing it in one way or the other right now, it is very lonely and very, very personal. Yeah. Just as every reality is absolutely personal, so is the experience of letting go absolutely personal. And the dragon can be a true companion. A companion that is with you, that makes himself visible, that is just there. And at the same time, it shines a bright light on all your illusions, because it is you, it reflects you, it sees you as you are, it has no problems to see all the shit in you, and this suddenly comes up. And you notice things that you haven't seen before because you did not want to see them before. And if you want to let go of separation, well, there's one thing. You cannot have anything suppressed, because suppression is by definition separation. There's an anchor that holds you in separation. You have to look at all of it, the good and the bad stuff. And the dragon comes in to point that out, helps you. And Artar specifically goes into much details. What are all the illusions that a human has piled up along this way? Not just in the humans, even when you were non-physical. And I think it does it very, very succinct, very, very precisely, very helpful, that you can become aware of it. And once you are aware of something, then it's way easier to let go of it, to notice and step back and let go and let go and let go over and over again.
Yeah, yeah. I love that point of 1 million times a day. Let it go, let it go, before you get seduced into just shutting down and just habitually responding, reacting. So yeah. So beingness takes a little practice.
Yes, and there's one mental trick you can play on yourself. When you say 1 million times, this is not only bad, because if it's 1 million times, it was 1 million times that you have noticed you were gone back into the dream of separation.
Very
so
good.
There were 1 million small enlightenments, like, oops, I'm dreaming. Oh, let's stop that. Oops, fall asleep again. But see it positively. Oh, 1 million times you have awoken, a small letting go, a small enlightenment. That's good. 1 million times a day is not that bad. And so but it will get better over time.
Yeah.
And it will getting even, this is the bad news, huh? It's not getting easier over time. For when you have let go of the raw, I know, various aspects that you have on the raw psychological level, well, this is solved at some point, or you know how to deal with it. But as you get deeper, as your awareness gets finer, you see all the unconscious stuff coming from the biology, coming from ancestors, from blueprints, from spooks and ghosts being around you. This all suddenly comes to your awareness, and you have to let go of that over and over again to maintain your space.
Speaking of time and space, then, why is it that the dragons in this form are here at this time?
The dragons are here to assist those who are asking for help. And that was one of the points that I was a bit shocked when I did the first Altar book. Well, I thought first this were personal messages for me. But at some point he said, well, listen, this should be made available to many because the dragons come back in great numbers. They have retreated for a while, but they feel now the time is right to come in once again. And potentially because there's a big shift in consciousness, a decision point, you might say. Yeah? It is right now, the consciousness on the planet is spread apart, very wide. You have very high consciousness people, you have very low consciousness people. And if it spreads too fast, too wide, it will just collapse. It will not be something nice. So my take is, well, there will be a split. We have to decide, what will you do? Will you live in high consciousness or in low consciousness? And this is not a choice that is going on overnight or over a day or a week. This is taking a while. It goes slowly. But right now, there is the decision everybody has to make. What do I choose? Do I choose the eye of separation, as I call it, or the eye of suchness? And to assist in that, to sponsor those who are willing to make a choice, well, the dragons come back, because they are representatives of their true selves. And even though true self is beyond time and is not really, has no time schedule or agenda, well, there is a certain amount of, call it suffering around in separation. It's not getting easier when the low consciousness spreads too wide. So my assumption is, and what I hear is, this is why the dragons are back. It is everybody personal, has to make a choice. And it's deep. It's nothing that fits easily in the human mind, typical view of the world. But there are several streams of time going on simultaneously. So which one do you choose? Where do you want to live?
Yes, yes. I think the reaction, the human reaction to a lot of this is when we talk about different realities and making a choice of which one you want to claim to be supporting you, the real you, then there's that human reaction to things like family and jobs and place that you're living or country or all those things that are providing a type of comfort just to get through the day, just to feel safe being here in this experience. So when we add things like, this could separate in a way that low consciousness is not going to be able to accommodate the kind of energy that's supporting a higher state of consciousness. I notice in the people that I'm working with, a lot of them go back to the human reaction too. Well, why must I think I'll go back to mom, dad, sister, brother, all my friends, all my coworkers, and bring them with me. Why would you want to be stuck in all this suffering? But they give up their freedom to actually have that experience that makes it real for them. So this is interesting how this is unfolding in a lot of ways. And Michael, again, he calls it being divinely selfish. Divinely selfish. This is about you and not the human you. This is about the human you just gets the experience of it all. So it's amazing to me. And thank you, dragons, for coming back and giving us some assistance, because this is challenging. I mean,
It is challenging.
Yeah.
I would say there's an important point to understand. Yes, in a certain way, you have to give up all attachment to family, to your kids, to your parents, to all the rest of that. But this does not mean that you have to leave them. Not at all.
Right.
You have to, but actually it's quite difficult, because if you are at home in a home environment, this is where your buttons are pushed all the time. Everybody knows that. So it's not easy, but there is no reason to escape. So it's possible to do both, or to have a good arrangement, like going off a week every month or so to get stable, and then come back and be a good guy. Yeah. The difficult thing to really grasp is, you are not limited to this body. And this is easier said than done. It's easy to accept that mentally, and to hope for it, and to want that. But to realize it and to live it is a very different thing. It doesn't go overnight. And I would even say it shouldn't go overnight, because it might throw you off. If it's too fast, well, you just couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
But the understanding is, going beyond separation does not mean you have to leave everything behind and everything is starving and your kids are, I don't know what. That's not true. That's not true.
Right.
But one thing is true: you can create for yourself favorable circumstances. You need time for yourself. You need your space. Then it becomes easier. Once you get freedom for yourself, then you can much easier be of help for all the others that are around you.
Yes. Well, I'm going to slip in a question here from one of our listeners. They notice you and I don't label our relationship to the non-physical counterparts of us as a channeled message, and their question is, why do some of the more traditional channelers continue to channel other entities and not their own true selves? But I don't want to make this a right or wrong, but I'm just kind of curious your your choice not to make it a channeled message?
Yes, because it's me. And I
Yeah.
think it's kind of weird to channel myself. It, it sounds odd. Huh? Well, I can state it that way, but I prefer to say, well, I take on the perspective of, and then I talk from the perspective of Altar or of my true self called Awa. I can just do that. There's no that barrier.
Yeah.
But then, of course, there are wise entities around, and they have agreements with others, with humans who are capable of doing a good channel if they're getting the information precisely across, and they prefer to do that. And why not? Why not? If the information is good, where's the point? In the end, it's not at all important who is the messenger, but the message as such is important. Does it resonate with you? Does it liberate you? Does it make your life easier? And then I don't care who brings it forth. Well, I have to say, when I was in Zen, I wasn't really in channeling and all the rest. It was I didn't want to have to do anything with that until I came across Jeffrey Oppy, of course, and I heard the messages and said, "This is really good content, really good material."
Yeah.
But is this real? Blah blah blah. Well, I checked him out at some meeting. I got a feeling for him, and then I said, "Well, this is genuine. This is real." And then at the end, I decided I do not really care who speaks those words if they ring true to me, and I stick to this message. I don't care who is saying what. I don't care about the age. If it might be a 5'6" or a 500-year-old guy, I don't know. If the message is good and timely, well, I listen. And if not, I say, well, ciao, without me.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. I see it that way too. So it's, I know the one asking the question kind of wants to create a right or wrong with that, but it's all good. I know a lot of people that are channeling, and I might not resonate with the words or the message, but that's what speaks to them. So be it. It is.
Altar always says all that we are doing is we shed illusions by using illusions. You see, you are in an illusionary state. If I just come around and say, hey, there's no problem, you just let go of everything and we're done. Fine. Wow. That's the message. But nobody's able to get that message. So you have to break it down. You have to subtle find words that people can accept in slow steps, even though in essence there is no step. But that's the way it is. One has to acknowledge reality. And that's the way it is. So shedding illusions by means of illusions does mean, in the end, you have to understand whatever you hear between your ears or wherever that is comes from you anyway. You can label it an outside entity, or you can label it yourself. It is you who is directing your awareness and your consciousness to that message and giving it validity or discarding it. So in essence, the outside entity is not really of importance. It is you anyway. But
Yeah.
it's hard to accept. It's better to put it outside there. Oh, there's this, I don't know, a dragon or a saint or whoever, a Holy Spirit, and they talk to me. Maria, you name it. Yeah, but this is all you anyway.
Yeah.
Coming in disguises just to help you. Ambassadors of creation, as I call it. They take on all shapes and disguises just to trick you out of separation.
I agree. I agree. Well, I know my mind had a real hard time when I used to do the channeling, and that was easier for Robert, but not so easy for what wanted to come through, mainly because I think my mind just assumed humanity would expect there to be some miraculous presentation, that if you own that you are also this, whatever that, Michael or whoever it might be, that that comes with, well, then demonstrate that you're better than just the human that's disconnected. And so I'd have people say, well, walk on water. So I'd go out there with a hose, put water on the sidewalk, and I'd walk on it. And it just wasn't convincing. It
It
didn't do
wasn't.
the snow. Damn, I was like, God, you're so stubborn here. So but I think a lot of people have the human part fears. It's so separate from their divine, and the divine is just going, we're good to go just the way you are. We're not coming in here to turn you into, Iron Man or a Marvel Comics superhero. We're in to share wisdom. I mean, that
Uh,
would be a miracle. That wisdom actually could be human too. I
that
mean,
is a miracle, I tell you.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
No,
exactly.
I think this whole setup is part of the socialization of humans. When they
Yeah,
grow up, they are taught that they have to learn something and improve something in order to get something. Train something to play piano, and one day you'll be the great pianist on stage, or whatever. Do some katas and be the great martial arts super duper champion, and then you can maybe not walk on water, but you make your salto mortale out of while you're sitting. I don't know what they all do. But this is just stupid. This is just enhancing features of separation. And if you want to do that, if this is your interest, well, go ahead, do that.
yeah,
But how can anybody assume that letting go of separation, letting going beyond the illusion, would mean you suddenly get Superman features? What would change? Imagine I had 2 more arms suddenly.
yeah.
Now, so what? What would change? Is my mind
Well,
getting better?
yeah, yeah. Well, you know, humanity has a way of taking a few individuals who became enlightened and reconstructed their story to fit in another agenda to make it impossible for anybody ever to be free of that kind of separation. And we could go down the road with that, but it's let's not.
Yeah, but there's a from the tradition of the yogis, there's the true problem with that, because once you move within, once you let go of your filters, yeah, sure, you will have higher sensory perceptions. You will
Right.
suddenly notice other things. You will get clairvoyance. You see suddenly things that others do not see. You might be able to bilocate and all the rest of that. So if you're choosing to experience that, well, go ahead and do that. But it does not change anything as related to illusions or not. We have just more senses to cope with. If you can pierce into 5 other realities simultaneously, well, there's all separation going on.
Yeah.
There's no difference. That's why you are here. If you can bilocate, well, you have 2 times the same shit. So what's the point? With 1 time right, so and concentrate of letting go right here where you are. Well, this is something that is so difficult to understand. And even if you do the exercises that Altar suggests, you will have experience of that kind. And he is very, very clear about cautioning you. You will experience surges of high energy. You want to run out and pull out the trees and do the next great project. But this is not what this is all about. High energy, being full of vitality, is your natural state. This doesn't mean you run into separation and suddenly do all the things. And I know from what I speak, because I did in the past. You do this, you cannot hold back, and you just run ahead, do your thing, and 2 years later you notice, oh, I just entangled myself on the next great project. Now maybe come back to those things that are really important.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Michael likes to call a lot of us the pedal to the metal group. So,
Yes.
and there's certain qualities to that yeah, I hope there are that are actually you know, enhancing our own sense of self. But there's also qualities I know personally in relationship to my physical body that it doesn't appreciate at all. The whole pedal to the metal approach, that it's kind of a destructive approach in that relationship. So, yeah. Let's talk about creating your own reality, because I know a
Oh,
lot of people have talked about that. I know a lot of people in my generation kind of picked up on that from the Seth books that was channeled by Jane Roberts, and that just triggered a lot of, well, for a lot of people, a different passion, different relationship to that, without having to do the work to seeing, well, what part of us is actually creating the reality for us. So I let's I'd love your interpretation of that statement, how it's been misused and how it works for you.
yeah. Well, Altar has a very specific opinion on that, and I'm not sure everybody agrees on that, but I do.
Yeah, yeah,
uh, he described this in the final letting go, and then expands on it in the Opus Magnum. He said, in the moment separation was pondered by pure consciousness, all of separation came into existence simultaneously. And he brings the example of a chess game. The moment you define the rules of a chess game, the very moment, all potential chess games are just there. You cannot see them, but they are all defined implicitly just by the rules. We have a certain set of figures, you know what you can move, and you could even enumerate all potential chess games, would take you literally eons. But just by defining the small set of rules, you suddenly have all the chess games. Very same with separation, but you have much more potential scenes to experience. A scene being a single given moment with all the perceptions you have in that moment. So from that perspective, he says, you are not creating your reality at all. Everything that could be created in separation already exists. The only thing you do is you are in a given moment and you navigate to the next moment, being a scene sphere, as he calls it, the sum total of all your perceptions in a given moment. You navigate to them into the next, but they already do exist. And the navigation that you do is driven by your fears and their desires and your hopes and all the rest of that. So seen from the inside, you might be in a scene sphere that you have never seen before, and you have the perception, oh, I created this. Suddenly there's something new for me. I've never encountered that. I created my reality. Truth is, you did not. It was already there, and then you went there. On a certain level, this doesn't matter. If you are human and you are able to choose the scene spheres that you want to experience, well, then you're just creating your reality seen from a limited human perspective. And this is fine for a while. But after a while, you come to realize, hey, I did not ever create anything new. All that I do is repeating myself. The finest sunset seen a million times, at some point it gets boring. Walking the beach at some time, yes, I did it a million times, 10 million times. Maybe there's something wrong with this kind of creation that I do to myself. And then the problem begins. Then and only then does it begin. Because how do you get out of this enormous ocean of scene spheres that you're stuck in because you were within a sphere? And the moment you try to do something, you give new impulses to go somewhere. But by going somewhere, you just go in circles. The same plots all the time, as opposed to letting go, getting beyond these scene spheres, and then suddenly seeing this vast ocean of potentials from beyond separation. And this is why it is so difficult. And if you are within those scene spheres, everything is real. I try to go so far as to say, well, there is no energy. Energy just doesn't exist. It is only the way those moments are connected that then creates the appearance of energy, like there's a wind blowing and therefore a leaf goes from here to there in the next scene sphere. But the scene sphere are disconnected. It's a jump. It's like a, I don't know the word in English, Daumenkino, when you have small images and flip them and suddenly you see emotion. Same with time, doesn't exist. Only by moving and you're observing change does time come into your perception. This is hard to digest, but it is, I would really think, so crucial. You really have to get fed up with living in separation. You really have to get fed up. Only then is there a chance that you can get beyond it. If you still like to experience this particular something, do it. Really do it. Do not hesitate a moment. Bring it in your life and do the experience. Do it a million times until you are fed up. And then when you are ready, then turn to the altar books or to the real stuff, because then you know that nothing in separation will ever continually, permanently satisfy you. And only then are you ready for the final letting go. Before that, it's just a game. And typically, humans want both. Huh? They want the enlightenment and they want the humanism and play the games and they want to win, of course. It's not possible. Make a choice.
Yes. Very good. Yeah, you're right. Not everyone's going to embrace that, but
Oh, no. Oh, I see my audience running away. And
yeah, I saw that here. The viewership just nosedived there. I don't know what happened there. No, I think that's it. I think but are we talking about creating your own reality as a sovereign being? How does that play into that?
Well, I get brutally honest. There is no point in creating your reality in separation. If you are a sovereign being, you are just there where you want to be.
Yeah.
You see, there is no inside and there is no outside. So if you are in a sovereign state, it does not end at your skin. It's all around you. It plays into your way you want to do. There's no need to scheme and plan anything. Well, you could, of course, but
Right.
there's it shouldn't be an ambition to create your reality in that sense. It should be your ambition to free yourself. And when you are free, then you are free, more free to choose the next scene spheres to experience. And if you need to go from here to over there because there is your next new car, whatever crap you want, well, then make yourself so free that you can go there. And if you're truly sovereign, you could even jump there, which is hard on the consciousness, which is hard for the human consciousness, because if your environment suddenly changes, it's not that easy on the physical and on the mind, but in principle, yes, it's possible. But this is still games in separation.
Yeah.
Still games in separation. I think I need to turn on the light and to see that you can see me a little bit better. Huh? I will give it a try. I have to put off this thing.
Yes.
Better?
Much better. Yeah.
Good. So I have to see if I can see anything. Good. Ah, suddenly I'm there. Oh, I'm shining also. Good. Cannot help it. Eh?
Yeah, right.
Fruit of the practice.
It works. It works. Can you talk a little bit about the goddess of bliss?
Ooh, this is a hard thing for me. I have the term goddess. I have a reflection with the term. Whenever I hear something like goddess, I have difficulty. I want to vomit in my mouth. Yeah. When I first felt that, I mean, really goddess. It's the best term I came up with, because it's just right. Because it's so, goddess of bliss is also the goddess of the feminine, and therefore goddess at this point is appropriate. And the goddess of bliss, as Altar presents this and introduces her, is a part of you that it's something that reminds you of the part of you that never left separation. It's a bit esoteric, and I wouldn't go into much details, because there we cross a boundary really into the absolute, and it doesn't make too much sense to speak too much about it. But if you're truly opening up, you might feel this feminine beingness, this very light, gentle, non-separating, non-fighting quality. And specifically when you do what Altar calls the light body exercise, you may encounter her. And as a remembrance of who you truly are, of that portion of you that has never left, that is still there, where you finally find yourself. Because in reality, you have never left. You're just daydreaming in the absolute.
Yes, yes. No, that's beautifully said. I have the same thing with the term goddess, but it's just been it's been distorted and misused, and a lot of other things done to it.
There's really no point. Actually, there's no point in having a gender to a god. It's to the absolute. It's just nonsense. Right. But see it from the human. That's always the point. You see it from the human perspective, from the human experience. Then it makes sense. It just makes sense. Otherwise, I would not have used that term.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, it's a bit to balance the male language I use, because usually I choose the male form because it's more or less tradition. But then it encounters the highest is the she, so everybody is fine.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. This other question is from someone who's asking, why is everyone channeling male entities? Where are the female entities? Is humanity uncertain about that, or frightened about that presence? Or, you know, I think Adamus has even mentioned that in the Ascended Masters Club, the majority of enlightened human beings are women, are female. So this person's wondering, then why aren't they being represented here too, equally?
Well, I don't know, just do it. Whoever asks, well, get in contact. But might be that those male guys have their list and counting their saved souls, and so they want to go out and do their stuff. I think it's for the tradition. It was that way at some point. And when people come in touch with material like that, they first, well, get in touch with this, and they continue doing that, looking for something like that. But there are, I would say, female entities that are channeled. But I'm not so much into following channelers, so actually I don't know what female entities are around.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
female and male, it really doesn't make any sense. But then, if they have been incarnated, of course they have a certain background. And if they have been the majority of the time in the male body, well, then of course they have the male experience and maybe present themselves even more as a male.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might be a reason.
Michael presents the same thing of, we came up with separation between male and female, heart and mind, and all the rest of it, white and dark. And it's just a way for humanity to understand or grasp the awesomeness of totality of what's being presented that doesn't have those kind of, so I get it. Well, hey, my friend, we used up an hour there really, really quick.
Oh, that's fast.
Yeah. There's a lot of information, a lot of wisdom that was shared there. Really, really appreciate it. I know you've got some upcoming classes here, workshops that I'd love for you to have this moment to share with our listeners. If they're, it's an in-person class?
It's an in-person class, yes.
Yes, go ahead and tell the details.
Yes, there are two classes actually. One is taking place starting next Friday, a week from now. It's conducted in German language, in Germany, in a city called Karlsruhe, not that far from Frankfurt, which everybody knows. And there is another workshop in 4 weeks from now, starting, the 13th of August, conducted in English, same place. They're both 2.5 days. And from what I know from the past, it has been usually very intense. The topic is always to bring all that wisdom that is oftentimes mental and make it a lived experience. And this is oftentimes easier in an in-person group where the energy and the consciousness can spiral upwards. And then it's getting easier to let go and to open up to the higher wisdom. So this takes place. The next workshop next week is, there might be one space left, but in the other workshop, the English one, there are a couple of spaces left. So if anybody's interested, just come by and let's see what we can do together in that meeting.
I'll go ahead and post some of the graphics that we have for those later on the recorded version of today's session, and let them contact you directly on that. We also have one other question, but I think you've answered this. When is the next book coming out? But I think, maybe you should talk about that.
Yes. Well, there are books coming out constantly, but these are translated versions of the original series. Well, there are now 5 books in the Altar series, and I wanted Altar to be the 5th book. This would be the last. Because I do not want to have to make the impression that there's always something more that you need to know or need to learn. As far as I understand it, and as far as those that work with me present to me, is what he has laid out in those 5 books is sufficient. We can always add more details here and there, but when it comes to the general, the broad wisdom and knowledge that is helpful during the path of enlightenment, this is all there. Now it is about doing. And to emphasize that, I'm not intending to write many new books. Having said that, what might come though, although there are no plans, but there might come, say, clarifications of the same topics or practice, not guides, but hints for the practice or problems that might occur. I'm not sure how that happens. I did a book out of one of those workshops I did in the past, out of 2 even, and well, they do just that. They present the material from a different perspective. It's often good to get it deeper, and then this might help for others. But right now, well, I do not intend to have another core Altar book. Might change, but no, right now I don't see that.
Very good. Very good. I love hearing that. That's enough right there. That works. Yeah.
Yeah, just do it. Stop talking, stop thinking, stop discussing. Now do it.
Hey, you're channeling for Nike. That worked too. So, Well, thank you again, my friend. It was a pleasure having you on today's show, and I look forward to hearing all about your next adventures. And I certainly appreciate your willingness to bring forth such, well, such profound, it might be simple, but it's profound, simplified version of what feels to be so immense. So I
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you also for inviting me and having this wonderful discussion. And next time I will have some more light that you can see me.
Oh, well, at least the dragon in the background. I mean, that was
You
cool.
want the dragon again?
Yeah, let's see that
Let me
again.
see if I can find that easily. Are you ready for the dragon?
Yes, please.
Here we go.
Whoa, you just really shifted there.
Oh, I like those teeth. Huh? Never know what happens when they go in this direction.
Yeah, right. Well, good luck with that.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
Yes.
It was a pleasure to be with you, and whoever listened, thank you for listening.
So we're going to say goodbye to all of you together, and until next month when we do conversations again. It's our pleasure to be of service to you. And this was our last conversations with Michael from our home studio in Portland, Oregon. Finally, we're moving in a few days now to our new location. And with all that high-speed internet that I've never actually had before, we'll see what that does to me. So all my blessings to all of you until the next time.
Ciao.